Let me get this working. First of all, it's really humbling after my colleagues speak to follow you guys. You're totally awesome. I'm so blessed to have you as my colleagues. So I learned a word last year called FOMO. Who knows what FOMO stands for? Fear of missing out. I was talking to members in the lobby about an upcoming JCC fundraiser. This big thing was happening, and this woman says to me, "Oh my God, I have to be there, otherwise I'll have FOMO." I said, "Well, what's FOMO?" And she said, "Fear of missing out." Well, I went home and I've been thinking about that comment of FOMO, that's really been, for me, something that's been part of my whole JCC career. This fear of missing out on this opportunity to gauge people Jewishly. Why did I go into this work? Why did we all go into this work? Was to create stronger Jewish communities, to create meaning in Jewish people's lives. But I found myself for the last 8 years constantly worrying about fitness centers and marketing and attrition and more sales staff and being so frustrated every budget season with all these great ideas to engage people Jewishly that I had to park them on the side because the innovation was too expensive against the resources I needed to sustain the current mapping of the JCC. But I felt guilty. I had this FOMO day in and day out of how are we engaging people Jewishly. The studies came out last year, Pew and all that stuff, not to get into that said there's declining interest in synagogue life and federation. And here's the dirty secret, a declining interest in us as a Jewish institution that's really doing meaningful Jewish content. I was so exhausted after 20 years of debating with rabbis what's Jewish about the JCC, sitting in CP&A meetings, community planning and allocations, what's Jewish about the JCC? And I would say, you're not giving me the money to do the Jewish. So one is, 20 years ago, some of my colleagues know these documents. I started reading this stuff. I wasn't a JCC kid. I came out of the Reform movement. I joked that I grew up in an interfaith home. My father was a rabbi. My mother was a secular Israeli. Not the traditional interfaith home. Constantly, my life was engaged in being Jewish. Sometimes the argument about ritual, and the other opportunity about going to the Israeli music festival. But my life was always about being Jewish. And so when I went to work in a JCC, because I didn't want to be a rabbi, I found myself trying to figure out, well, what's the JCC role and what's the synagogue role? So I used to pick up these books. Many of you authored them, know what I'm talking about. It got to the point that here's the same book 20 years later with pretty much the same content. Not much different, looks a little nicer with the marketing. The time is now. It got to the point where I was so obsessed with what a JCC could be that you look at my thesis in May of 1996 at the Worthwhile School of Social Work is JCCs and synagogues, a needed partnership in the American Jewish community. Wow, can we change that word right now to JCCs and federations, a needed partnership? How about JCCs and Birthright Next? How about JCCs in Limud? How about JCCs in Moshe House? All these partnerships that were needed, this has been on my mind for 19 years. What did I come to learn when I tried to struggle with this over the years? That the rabbis, when I go out and talk to them, we debate this. It's not your turf, Barak. I don't want you doing those things. You're getting into my world. Well, I came to realize that I wanted to argue with them, and the more I talked with them and wanted to study with them, the more they were willing to invite me into a conversation with them and said to me that this tension of who does what goes back to the Talmud centuries ago when there was a Rabbi, Judah Prince, who would argue with his student about where Jewish learning should happen. The rabbi said it should happen in the Beit Midrash on top of the hill, and all of us should go to the top of the hill to study. And there was a younger rabbi who said, no, look at the road, down the road. Everybody's hanging out in the shuk. I want to go down to the shuk and do my stuff and do my learning. And the rabbi said, no, if you go down to the shuk, you're out. And he banned him for 30 days. And when he brought him back, you know what they figured out? They still couldn't agree. And here we are centuries later still wrestling with the Beit Midrash and the shuk. So what did I come to realize as I keep on defending what our movement's all about? It's yes and. Yes, it should be in the synagogue and the Beit Midrash. And yes, it should be in the shuk. but how do I build a trust and partnership that I'm so committed to engaging people Jewishly and do not want to just be known as a gym and an aquatic center? How do I allocate a budget that I got to pay for all this capital investment our Jewish community invested in the 20th century, but invest money in the ultimate goal we have, which is to engage people Jewishly? So I decided that we had all the resources, right? We have the time is now, we have our statement of principles, we have all the stuff. And then last year, Ron Wolfson said about relationships. How much time are we spending in our office but not making appointments to just talk about it? Don't sell the program. Tell these rabbis and Jewish leaders and innovative thinkers what we're wrestling with. So I went on a kick that I was going to invest a lot of emotional capital. That I would look at my Microsoft Outlook schedule every month between managing past presidents, the executive committee, the staff, the board. I would meet with 2 Jewish communal leaders every month just to talk. From Hillel directors in the community. I never thought to talk to a Hillel director. To the new rabbis coming into our community, the new educators, and I found that these new the new leadership coming in were millennials, these Generation X thinkers who also are wrestling with institutional Judaism, but that's where they joined. But they actually don't want to just take care of their congregants. They want to change Jewish communal life. And could I open up the JCC as a municipality, a platform for them to offer their programming and Jewish learning at the JCC? So I continued to get frustrated about, I didn't have the budget for more shluchim, and I want to call my friend Gary and get more Israelis on our staff. But then I realized they're all over our community. How do I embrace them to see us as a platform? So I want to share with you some things that are going on, not as a dog and pony show to show off what we're doing in Baltimore, but to engage in a conversation of where can we find opportunities to deepen Jewish engagement, engage more people Jewishly. And here's what I usually get when I ask people to get involved. No one ever asked me. Never had these conversations before with a JCC leader. Here's some ideas. There's an organization called the Eitz Chaim Center. Big modern Orthodox outreach center in Baltimore. Wanted to do the great big Shabbos project out of South Africa. Wanted to start with the great big challah bake. Only because of this relationship, he said, I never thought of hosting it at the JCC. 1,300 people showed up, 1,000 religious women with 300 unengaged Jewish women making challah together. What did we leverage? The best facilities in the community to host it. Our operational logistical skills in pulling it off. They never could have pulled it off. Then they gave us 1,300 people that showed up. They did the content, they did the program. And here's where it falls to the bottom line. I had 1,300 now lead generators for membership who maybe said, I never had walked into the JCC in years. I haven't seen these facilities. Too often early in my career, I looked at my rental line and the budget of how much am I charging every Jewish organization to use the JCC for $100? I said, I'll make you a deal. I'll waive every fee. I'll waive all that money if my membership person has the opportunity to greet you and offer your group a tour. I'll waive the $100 for the Jewish book club or whatever group, because if I get one membership out of it, it's $1,000. I never looked at hosting Jewish organizations as lead generators for membership. I wanted to deepen content this year at Hanukkah, so I said to the staff, let's do some more content inside the JCC. I love to be in New York City. I love the Christmas caroling in the subways. I said, I want to see kids singing in the JCC lobby. So one of our staff people called up the local Krieger Schechter Day School. I never thought to do this. He said, why don't you have your choir stand in our lobby and sing Hanukkah songs? There were over 200 people standing in that lobby, and here's what one gentleman said to me. I thought about dropping my membership because I saw all the deals coming out in January with all the other health clubs. I didn't say, can I afford this? When I walked in tonight and I saw kids singing, it reminded me why I want to be part of a Jewish community center. That I won't get this feeling at Planet Fitness. And he stopped in the lobby and said, I'm going to stop my workout for 30 minutes because this is what I want to be part of. The next day I got an email from a person who said to me, I'm going to rejoin the JCC. I said, why? He goes, because if you're going to promote Krieger Schechter to the community as an option and give that kind of marketing venue, that's what I want my JCC to stand for. Got Shabbat. We want our families to experience Shabbat. We've made a conscious decision, $10,000. Big number, $10,000. We send out an email every summer. Synagogues sign up one Friday night a month. They host a Shabbat Tat Shabbat at their synagogue. they provide the rabbi, the cantor, the song leader. We charge the families. We deliver the families to them. We're averaging anywhere from 25 to 50 families that we deliver to the synagogue to have a Shabbat experience. What rabbi does not love us to giving him 25 to 50 unaffiliated families? But when I call him then 3 months later and say, hey, can I have a camp open house on Sunday morning during religious school instead of the camp open house at the J? He's like, Barak, you delivered me 25 families. You could have a camp open house in our building. Building partnerships and building trust that we all care about this bottom line. JTown. JTown, I want every JCC in North America to have a JTown. This is the most beautiful thing I think I've ever been part of. The first physical PJ library. We took over an empty space that was an art gallery that no one visited. We all have those JCC art galleries. 20 people a week came in. And we wanted to turn it into an interactive place for Jewish experiences, but we couldn't do content. We turned to our bureau and said, we can build it. We know how to operate it, but can you be our partner on content? Over 950 people have come in the first 2.5 weeks. Another lead generator, people in our building coming in for Jewish experiences. I'm going to skip a couple because I have more. That guy with the guitar, we wanted to add Jewish music this summer to our camp. We couldn't find a song leader. That's the executive director of Goucher Hillel. He said to me, I said, do you have anybody on your staff? My camp director needs a song leader. He goes, why don't you ask me? I'd love to come out on a Friday and play guitar for the kids at camp. And he goes, and by the way, I have an 8-year-old at camp. How lucky am I to get to go to camp and see my kid at camp? I'll lead song session. So we decided this summer that every Friday we'd have a different rotating person in our community come out. Great marketing for the J, great collaboration. And the other guy in the other picture is the education director of one of the largest Reform synagogues and said, I'd love to come out and tell a story every Friday and now to your campers, and now we're creating a partnership. And he's now marketing, he doesn't even realize he's marketing our camp in his Sunday school, because when people say to him, where should I send my kids this summer? He says, oh my God, I love the JCC camp, I go out there. So how do we leverage all these educators and resources throughout our community? Another opportunity for us for deepening engagement, we realized that Jews are not always living in our neighborhoods. We opened up a storefront called the DBJCC, the Downtown Baltimore JCC, to put a storefront right in the Jewish neighborhood, not too expensive, to engage families Jewishly, and to create an opportunity for people. But the only way we could pull off the DBJCC was with partnerships. So what's my big idea for the future that I would love for you to think about? That our JCC becomes a network Jewish community, that we leverage our facilities and resources to promote Jewish life and options for engagement. And the second thing is, which I think is probably the big BHAG for me, is this open marketplace. Positioning the JCC to be a full-service market where people can not only experience our programs, but experience theirs. And bringing people into our building through partnership. So there's a lot of other stuff, and I hope that we can begin, if you're interested in this type of a conversation, of how do we leverage what we have? All this talent that's going on, the millennials and the Generation Xers who come from such a rich, robust Jewish camping background and different opportunities to help them to come into our community. So my theme is really simple. Just connect and collaborate. Thank you very much.